Welcome to The Music Reel. I'm your host, Nicola Burton. Today I'm speaking with Angus McPherson. Now, Angus is the Managing Director for Diageo in Australia. Angus, welcome to The Music Reel. Thanks for joining me today.
Morning, Nicki. Thanks for having me.
Now, as you've just said to me, you're in Melbourne. So let's talk a little bit about that. So you are totally in lockdown right now, again.
Yeah, back in lockdown, apart from only reasons to leave home are the ones they say, to go to the shops or pretty much a bit of exercise or if you need some medical attention.
Wow. Who can believe that here we are in 2020 and you're in your second lockdown?
Yeah, it is challenging, but, to be honest, it's a lot more challenging for those small businesses out there. They're the people I probably feel the most sad for at the moment, going into their second lockdown, doing it really tough.
Well, let's talk about why you're here today. We are talking about the Raising the Bar initiative. Now, this is a global program by Diageo, and it was released in July, and it's designed to support pubs and bars, I guess, in their recovery as they start to welcome customers back. Obviously not in Melbourne right now, but eventually. So, Angus, can you tell me about how that came about, what it offers, and who it actually benefits?
Yeah, so it is a global initiative, and $100 million US is around the world to help sort of on-premise venues, on-premise venues, pubs, restaurants, clubs, bars, etc. In Australia, we have an $11.5 million fund, and the fund really is any licensed venue in Australia. So if you have a liquor license and you've been operating for 12 months, you can apply for the fund. And three key areas of the fund, which funds will be made available for. The first is PPE equipment, any equipment that you need to sort of make your venue sort of safe. Think about hand sanitizer as an example, gloves, masks, etc. The second part is if there's any training required to get your staff sort of COVID compliant, if required. And then the third one is about media and PR. And it's how can you work with venues to help promote that venues are safe to come back to. We're looking at working with industry associations on this front to sort of just give consumers confidence that these licensed venues around Australia are doing everything possible to make their venues as safe as possible for patrons to come back into them.
So it's an enormous investment, and I can't believe, you've been involved though. I guess you've had the Diageo Bar Academy for many years now. So there's been a great investment in this sector for a very long time with training and tips. So how can a bar or a venue get involved in this program right now, Angus? What do they need to do?
Yeah, it's great that you raised the Diageo Bar Academy because that's the actual website they go to. So if they go to diageobaracademy.com and they can put in their application or request for support, and there's a form that they can fill out. And once they fill out that form, we'll get back in touch with them. As I said, they don't even need to be a Diageo customer, but all these venues get to put in an application, and then we'll go through those applications and we'll look to try to help as many venues as we can in Australia.
Well, so hospitality is a massive employer for the music industry. We are just inextricably connected, but also it's a massive employer around the world for, people looking for part-time employment or casual employment while they're going through university. So I'm curious to get your take on what Diageo believes is in store for the hospitality sector in the next couple of years. Someone last week predicted in Australia, at least, that we would lose 30% of this sector before, around 2021. What's Diageo's or your take on what our future looks like for hospitality?
Yeah, the point where you say it's a massive employer first, I think it's 1 in 10 jobs in Australia are in the hospitality sector. So to think that you could lose 30% is really, really scary. The services industry is the biggest employer. And, it's part of Australian culture, going to your local little restaurant, bar, pub. It's really within our DNA. So it's a really scary stat that we could lose up to 30%. There's no doubt that businesses are going to be under pressure, especially in Victoria where I am at the moment with the second lockdown. It is pleasing, even though in other states where they have restricted trading in place, that Australian consumers and punters, they're getting out there and doing everything they can to support them. But those venues are doing it tough. And I think the real challenge is how do we emerge out of COVID in the next 6 months, and can restrictions be lifted? Because I think that statistic could be reality if restrictions don't ease over time. Having venues operate at less than 50% capacity is not sustainable. JobKeeper's helping. But the key for this industry, especially as JobKeeper comes to an end, is the ability to get more patrons back into their venues. Without that, I'm scared like you that the statistic could be right, that we could start to lose some really great venues that are such a key part of communities which they operate within.
And you've released this program across the world, so places like New York, London, Shanghai, Mumbai. Are there any stats? I mean, I know it's quite early, but how are they going in comparison with Australia? What's the data so far?
Yeah, it's different all around the world, as you know. Like, pubs in the UK and Ireland have just started to open up again, and so the reality is it isn't the same anywhere. But the impact is the same, is in terms of the hospitality industry, and all these markets all around the world are key to employment and key to sort of communities which they operate within, and they're all doing it tough. And I think the statistic you came out with, which potentially up to 30% of venues could shut, is a reality around the world if we don't find a way to get more people back into these venues.
Okay, so I guess what's our call to action, Angus? What can we do? What do you think, ordinary, everyday, all of us, I mean, we're all going to be affected because it's part of our culture in Australia to get together at your local pub, isn't it? To listen to live music, get out there and connect. What can we do? What do you think?
I think the call to action is listen to the government, listen to the restrictions they're putting in place at the moment, because I think those restrictions, whatever state you're in, they're in place to allow us to open up and get back to normal as soon as possible. It's devastating what's happening in Victoria at the moment. As I said, this is my home, and watching all these venues shut. So you don't want to see what's happened down here. It's been horrible. Is you want to make sure that you're doing what's required of you when you do go into these pubs, clubs, bars, restaurants in all these other states. Support them. Do the right thing. By doing the right thing, you allow them to remain open, and hopefully you allow them to get more people back into their venues as soon as possible.
It's funny, that's the call to action. And the call to action really is just to do whatever we need to do right now to get through this, to get to the other side. But I think, look, it is a good news story, Angus, even though it doesn't seem like it is, because Diageo is offering such an incredible investment in this sector. So anyone in the sector that's watching this, make sure you go to the Diageo Bar Academy website, read up about it, make the application, because every little bit helps, doesn't it, Angus?
It does at the moment. And the reason why we're doing this is bars, clubs, pubs, they are the heart and soul of our business, have been for a long time. They're more than customers, they're friends. Bundaberg Rum's, 100 plus years old in Australia, and we've been serving our great product in these venues for a long time, and they're not customers, as I say, they're friends. And when friends need help and support, that's what we're here for, try to give our little bit back to them, to thank them for everything that they've done for us for such a long period of time.
Well, a big thank you to Diageo worldwide, and thank you, Angus, for taking the time to joining us today. It was great to hear this story about raising the bar, and we wish you the very best while you go through this second lockdown in Melbourne. Angus, thank you so much for talking to me today.
No worries, and thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you.